Hey guys, how's it going today? I just wanted to actually take the time to do a different kind of video today, which is kind of going over a quick trade review on a trade that I recently just took just about an hour ago. Well, I should say I exited the trade an hour ago, but I entered it about 4 hours ago. So this is an NQ trade, and I will talk a little bit about what made me want to take this trade. And so, I'm going to show you two different things, right? I'm going to show you what I'm looking at right now from a clean chart perspective, just so that you can see the candle action. But then I'm going to line it up with the FF indicator, which is something that I've been kind of posting about as well. So anyways, I'll get right into this first. So I was looking at the NQ at around 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time here. And you can see here right now, and I'm doing a bar replay, by the way. We were coming down already. So on the macro time frames, we have already rejected this area quite a few times. And we were kind of making our way down to this area spot now. And so what I was looking at forming here was essentially a bear flag that we were rejecting simultaneously, this 22,185. Now, this 22,185 spot is not a level of any sort. It was just an area of interest that I noticed. But this channel that we were in was an important channel, and it has respected it at different points in time during for the NQ. And so as we continue to hold below, I entered a short trade here, and I did this with two NQ contracts. Again, if you're following on IG, you would have seen this already as I was sharing it along the way and also some screenshots from Discord. But I was looking for a 3R trade here. Okay. And so I did enter in on this candle. And, arguably, as you can see, when I look in hindsight, I can see that this may have not been the most clean entry. However, I would do it again. Like if I had not had any indicator of any sort to provide any, guidance or anything like that, this is the trade I would have taken regardless, because obviously the balance of trying to preemptively get into the trade at the right time can always be difficult. I don't think we should always be, striving to hit the top or the bottom, but I want to make sure I got in so I didn't miss too big of the move. So my stop loss was essentially going to be about 10 points, right? And so I'll kind of go into this in a bit in a sec here, but I'm just going to play this out. So as we entered this trade, as I said, bear flag was what I was kind of looking for. We did start to make some move downs, but we did pull up. Now we never did pull back up above the 10-point spot, as you can see here, right? And the trade did start to work out, and you can see we were hovering back and forth, back and forth. Now I want to pause here for a second. Those who know, when I trade the A's session, I generally will scalp. And so I go in and out, capturing 10 to 15 points a trade. And I'd be very happy with that. So I just want to show you something here, right? So assuming that I had entered here, a 15-point trade would have been about here. So I would have already been out of this. I wouldn't have held for this long. Naturally, if I were to trade Asia, I would continue to scalp over and over and over again. And on one mini NQ, that's about $300 per scalp, right? And so that's naturally how I trade. And again, for the full purpose, I want to hold on to this trade because I did want to see if this bear flag was going to work out. But it gave me a perfect opportunity to speak to why I do scalp, because I think even though scalping would have required a lot more time and effort to, obviously watch the trade and manage the trade, it's generally how I do trade the Asian market. Now, with that said, this was a very low maintenance trade. I pretty much just set my stops and set my limit sells and let the trade work out, which thank God that's all I did because it was a 3 hour long trade. Um, but again, anyways, I just want to highlight that fact as to why I scalp. And then as we continue to go along, you'll see we kind of go up and down, up and down, up and down, but we never really get above this. So why this was a 3R trade was because essentially we're risking 10 points for 30 points, right? So that's a 3R trade right there. And you could see basically at this point, we had a fake out up that direction, right? To give you the sense like we were gonna, pull back up and what have you. But again, staying true to the plan, I held, and but at this point right here, 10:14, that's about 3 hours after my entry of the trade, I got my 30 points. And so that was two contracts. So two mini contracts with 30 points, that's a $1,200 trade over the course of 3 hours holding this, right? Now, I'm happy with the way that it worked out in the end of the day. But again, as a highlight, talking about the scalps, and, I mentioned that the first 15 point, sorry, right here, the first 15-point scalp would have been about right here, right? If I would have gotten out of that, if I were to re-enter it again, I could have re-entered again here and taken another 15-point trade. So, there are multiple ways that people say there's multiple ways to skin a cat. I guess that would be a perfect reference here. I could have gotten to 30 points a different way. It would have required a lot more maintenance because I would have had to been here to manage it bit by bit. But that is naturally how I trade the Asia session because you don't get big moves. But the moves are, I want to say, slow enough that it makes it easier for you to manage the trade itself, right? So now that I've mentioned a few things, I mentioned the bear flag reasons, the macro timeframes of rejection, to why I like to scalp the Asia session, but this time around I held it for longer and it still worked out. I got my 2R trade, happy with that, with two NQ contracts. I want to flip over to the FF indicator here, which is called the FF forecaster. And I want to show you, for those who are already using this indicator, I'll explain to you why my entry may have not been the cleanest. Um, and why patients, would have warranted a better R. So, as I mentioned earlier, I entered somewhere around the 7 o'clock range. So I entered around here. But as you can kind of see, we did pull back up. Now, on the 2 minute time frame, looking at all these lines, you probably have no idea what you're looking at right now. But on the 5 minute time frame, you can see that where I entered around here, it was still considered early. We weren't at the trigger line yet, and we're kind of in between the trigger line and the trend line, right? So the cleanest entry would have been up here, which would have been would have been at the top, I guess, so to speak, of my trade itself. And the reason why is because generally, in the same way that we had a good rejection here to the downside, we had another one here. So an entry here or even there would have been clean. You could have either captured the trade from here to here, which is from basically the trigger line to the fib, or you could take another trigger line over here and then capture it all the way to down here. So based on the trade that I took, my entry from up here, which would have been at about roughly 2190, if I would have held it down to the original target, which was 152 here, that would have been about almost a 40-point trade. So would have given a little bit better R. Again, just showing you how, even though I took that trade without the indicator, because, again, I'm just trading how I naturally trade, I like to back test it against this indicator just to be able to see where the validity and of the trade is and how much confidence and conviction it can provide. So it's very cool. If you're a trader that likes to use the 2 and 5 minute, I think this is a great way to add a layer of conviction with this indicator. But if you have more questions about it, feel free to DM me, drop it in the comment box or anything like that. Like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. I'll try to do more content like this to share, but overall, yes, it was a 3 hour trade, but it was very low maintenance for me. Very happy with it. $1,200 tonight. So anyways, hopefully that adds some value. If there's any other questions, feel free to give me a shout. Thanks, guys.